Hello everyone, Nicholas Veinoglou here with Positive Grid Ignite Sessions. Today, I'm using the beautiful Spark Pearl amplifier from Positive Grid, which is back after popular demand for their 10th anniversary celebrations. Now today, we're gonna talk about practice. Now I know there is a ton of different ways to approach practicing. It's something that we all have to do as musicians. It's probably the most important thing that we need to do as musicians. But practice tends to get kind of a bad rep sometimes. You know, it's not necessarily the most exciting part of playing, right? We gotta sit down and work out our scales and have the metronome on, and it kind of can seem a little daunting sometimes. And I find for a lot of players who don't enjoy practice, it can really kind of make them feel a little discouraged from the instrument. Like, God, I've been practicing for weeks and weeks and I don't feel like I'm any better. So the point that I want to stress today is don't practice, just play. Now, I know that might sound a little counterintuitive, but let me explain. So the whole idea behind don't practice, just play is I want you to approach practicing more as playing. Because here's what happens if you sit down for a couple hours and you just put the metronome on and you practice your major scale, for example, right? That's obviously going to be good for you, but you're not learning and exercising that skill in a musical way. And you're ultimately going to be using whatever tools you're practicing, whether it be arpeggios, chords, inversions, scales. You're going to be using those in musical settings, right? No one's practicing just to say, hey, check out my scales here. Like, I can play all of them. You know, we're going to use them in a jam session or in a writing session, on stage with our band, with our friends. Like, we want to be able to incorporate all of these skills into real time. So you can think of it like learning a language, right? You can sit there and practice little phrases all day, but that's not going to teach you how to speak the actual language. You won't be able to hold a conversation, right? The best way to learn a language is by speaking the language. So you want to learn French, move to Paris for a year, and you'll probably just start picking up some French just from hearing it and being immersed in that environment. So I want you to approach practicing that same way. I want it to be an immersive experience where we're actually applying what we've been practicing and what we're working on in general into a musical setting. Really bridging the gap between the idea of practice is this daunting thing that we have to do, and then playing, which is really fun, right? It's like why we started playing an instrument in the first place, is because it brings us joy and we want to spread that and share that with people. So for me, being able to bridge that gap between those two ideas has really helped my playing grow quite a bit. So let me give you a couple examples of how to put this into action. So first thing that I always recommend is, even if you're just playing your major scales, let's say we're just working on our G major scale, right? Instead of just sitting there practicing up and down with a metronome, put on a recording of one of your favorite songs. It could be any song that's in the key of G, and practice along with the band. So I don't care if you're playing on Sweet Home Alabama or something, right? You know, that song could be going on in the background and you're kind of sitting there grooving along to your G major scale. But the cool thing is, as an ear training exercise, you're actually gonna hear that scale in music and you're gonna feel it more with the band. So, you know, it's one thing to lock in with a metronome, that's gonna help you develop your time, but playing along with a drummer, with a band, or with a recording, kind of the same thing, it's gonna give you a different feel to your scales and to your overall experience. And I find that anytime I practice scales or chords, whatever I'm working on, along with a recording that I really like, I end up hearing melodic fragments or cool riff ideas, or, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm playing the melody of this song, or a whole lot more musicality comes out of it. So that's one idea. Play along with some of your favorite songs or your favorite recordings, and just explore whatever you're working on. And again, you can always argue, well, you know what, Nicholas, I could play my G major scale over the song, but there's a couple chords that it's not going to sound great over. And that's also important. It's an ear training. You're going, wow, okay, when that song goes to the C chord, if I'm playing this note, it sounds a little wonky. And now I'm going to take that and internalize that. So when I'm on stage jamming, I go, hey, you know what? That one time I was practicing my major scale, I remember that one note sounds weird, so let's stay away from that note over this chord. Again, what I'm stressing here is playing music with what you're practicing. This is going to unlock a lot more possibilities on the fretboard. Now, another thing that you can do is take simple exercises and turn them into songs. So maybe you're working on a spread triad exercise. So maybe I'm doing something like this. I'm going from C, E minor to F, right? Just those 3 chords. And I'm just working on the technique of actually getting those voicings down, right? Now I can incorporate other things into these. Instead of just sitting there all day, just playing through those, I say maybe I'm gonna ditch the pick and I'm gonna work on my finger picking. And I'll come up with an actual like arpeggiated pattern. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of making a song out of the exercise, right? And by doing that, you're gonna remember these so much quicker and so much more long term. And this is something that I've done since I was really little. If I'm ever learning a new scale or a new arpeggio, anything, if you write your own idea or your own song or your own riff with whatever you're working on, you'll never forget it. I still remember songs that I wrote in 4th grade that I've never played since then, but I could still remember them because something really unique and magical happens when you write or compose something. It kind of gets ingrained into your DNA. And again, when we're writing and we're playing, we're having fun, but we're also internalizing a whole lot more information. So again, back to the idea of play, don't practice. Sure, I'm still practicing, but I'm really playing and making music, which is the ultimate goal we're working towards when we sit down to practice. Let's take an even simpler idea using this technique. Let's just say we're practicing transitioning our cowboy chords. I'm going from C to G, and I want to make that jump really clean. So I'm just practicing the technique between how to get all of my fingers from a C cleanly over to a G. Now, instead of just sitting there going, okay, C to G to C, maybe while I'm doing that, I'll try different time signatures, I'll try different time feels, different stylistic approaches. So that might sound something like this. Maybe I think something in 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Maybe I say, let's try palm muting at a fast tempo. I could even do like a reggae thing. Right, so the whole idea again is I'm making music while I'm learning and while I'm practicing. So again, we talked about how to take, something very daunting like a scale exercise or a chord exercise and make it musical, right? So the whole idea here, I can't stress enough, make music, always be making music. Play along with your favorite recordings. Loop yourself and jam to that. Come up with your own little song ideas or riffs while you're practicing techniques or scales or chords or arpeggios. Take all of your practice and make music with it. That is the ultimate goal that we're striving to reach anyways when we sit down to practice. So I really hope you can adopt this idea of don't practice, just play, and have fun not practicing, just playing. So if you dig this idea, I encourage you to make a video and post it on social media using #FuturePositive. This will give you a chance to be featured on the Positive Grid website and the socials, so be sure to do that if you get a chance. Also, head over to positivegrid.com to help us celebrate 10 years of Positive Grid.